beautiful.
Thank you. Will you actually take a picture of me holding this?
Yeah.
I can put up on my, or like a little video.
Sure.
We could do boomerang, whichever. Boomerang could be fun. I like presenting.
That's pretty good. It's not a boomerang anymore.
It's not? The false boomerang. Hello, I'm Adam Kenworthy. I'm a private chef and culinary consultant here in New York City. And today I'm gonna be making a cauliflower crust pizza for you. So I like the cauliflower crust pizza because it's very versatile. You can add all sorts of seasonings and herbs into the crust, or you can also add all sorts of toppings. What I'm gonna be making today, it's completely plant-based and vegan. So to begin, I'm going to clean this cauliflower. I'm gonna start with cutting the stalk off. Once this is cleaned up, you're gonna cut the center away. Before it goes in the processor, I like to kind of break it apart even more, just to help the processing of the cauliflower. Everybody would ask me when I started cooking, and my story as it goes is it all started with a breakfast burrito. In college, I was very into backcountry snowboarding, mountain biking, rock climbing, ultra running, all these crazy things. And it was super important to get a really substantial breakfast in. My roommates and I would have competitions of who could make the best breakfast burritos. And that kind of started me off on the path to healthy cooking. You want it pretty broken down. You don't want to see any like big florets in there. This is cauliflower rice. You can see the texture of it. It's kind of like a couscous almost. Now the next step is going to be to blanch it in hot water. Barely a boil, more of a simmer. And the cauliflower rice is gonna go in. I'd say like 2 to 3 minutes. I've been working as a private chef now for 5 years. And I don't have like an assistant to go do the grocery shopping for me, you know? So it's like, ends up me biking around the city all over. Even in the rain or snow, people see me biking, I'm just like, you know, fully loaded with one hand with 2 bags. It's silly. The trick after you do this is when you pour it out, I'm gonna use a nut milk bag, and you're going to wrap the nut milk bag around the strainer. Now we're going to pour out the cauliflower. And you have the cauliflower rice right there. So the next step is this is gonna get rinsed in cold water. Okay, so now this is getting more cooled off. Press all of the water out. If you dry this out and you bake it enough, the crust will stand up like a traditional pizza slice. So now we have the pulp, it's cooled off, all the water's been pressed out of it. So it's going to be a ½ cup of almond meal. I find that this provides kind of the lightest texture and also like the slight nutty flavor that it gives to the dough. The next flour I'm using, this is a gluten-free flour blend. This is from Bob's. You can find this at all grocery stores. So I'm gonna mix this in as well. It's still very moist. It's not like a traditional dough. That's okay. I'm gonna use 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. This is just gonna help it kind of rise, try to get some more airiness to it. And then a teaspoon of salt. The beautiful thing about this crust is you can mix in other spices for sure. It's kind of up to you and your taste buds. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of rosemary. Okay, so I'm gonna put a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil in here. And you don't want the dough to be too oily, but it is nice when you're baking it to have a little bit of oil. A little bit of cracked pepper. The recipe for today is for 1 head of cauliflower, but you could do 3 heads of cauliflower, make a big batch, and freeze 2 of these. And this is enough to make food for like 3 to 4 people. I'm gonna show you 2 different methods. Half of it's gonna be used to make 1 pizza crust, and then the other one I'm gonna make little pizza bites that will be more for like an appetizer application. It's super key that you use a baking paper. The baking paper is going to help dry it out as it bakes, and it's also going to ensure that you're not going to stick to whatever you're baking on. I like to press down in the center and kind of circle around with my hand on the outside to help form the crust. If it does stick, good luck. And then it also is that time of the year, so you can also kind of go this route with it. There you go. So cheesy. Next is gonna be the little pizza bites. Gonna do these little meatball sized pieces of dough. Same method, just kind of tap the outside. So now you're going to bake this, and we're gonna bake at 350, approximately, I would say, 20 minutes. While the crust is in the oven, this is now a great time to work on the veggies, the toppings. The delicata squash. Don't take it too far down. Save some extra, don't push it. Stay safe in the kitchen. I'm just gonna put a little olive oil in here. Toss this around. A little bit of salt is great. Okay. This is gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes, but you're gonna wanna keep an eye on it as well. Okay, now the maitake mushrooms. Just to clean these off, we're just gonna cut the stem, the base off. I'm just gonna put a little olive oil in here. Just a little bit of salt. And you're just gonna kind of saute them until they start to get a little crispy. So now is the time for the pesto. Pine nuts are extremely expensive, so a good thing to use is sunflower seeds. So I'll use like 50-50. Half a cup of pine nuts, about the same of the sunflower seeds. I'm going to use a little bit of roasted garlic for the pesto. We're gonna put some lemon juice in there. We're gonna do about a teaspoon of the salt, 3 tablespoons of oil. I'm gonna add a little bit of water in there. I think it's probably a big no-no in pestos for traditionalists. So this, you can see, it's a very light mixture. I would say it almost has the texture of like a sour cream. Last thing I'm going to do is toast some sunflower seeds and some pine nuts, just as a additional topping. I never went to culinary school. I worked in restaurants, and I was always close friends with all the chefs. And, you know, these friendships developed into them being kind of my mentors. I guess I've had a passion for learning that has been kind of school in itself for me. Sometimes the crust doesn't break away all the way. So what I'll do, I'll flip it over and I'll put it back in the oven just to hit that side with heat. I had a little extra dough, so I made a more traditional shape on this one. That's what you want to see when you flip it. Now we're going to apply the pesto to this. And I like the whipped pestos because they also spread very easily. The maitake have a meaty flavor profile to them naturally. I like the color of the delicata squash and then the toasted seeds. I always like to finish these pizzas with a little bit of fresh herbs. So using parsley for this. Traditional oval-shaped pizza bites, and my favorite heart-shaped pizza. So let's see how it turned out. So good.